So Man of Medan, essentially, well, I'll step back a little bit. The Dark Pictures itself is a series of standalone cinematic horror games. Each of those games will have an element of the real world about it, whether that's a fact or fiction or a urban legend or a tale. And then the first game in the anthology is called Man of Medan, and that features four friends and and a boat captain called Fliss, and they go on a boat trip, a dive of a lifetime, with a rumoured World War II wreck to find. They go diving, they find the wreck, they bring something up to the surface that they shouldn't, and it being a horror film, it all goes pretty much wrong from there.
Yeah, so we try to build lots of mechanics into the game, all based around revealing the kind of choice, consequences, and branching, which is a big part of how the audience will discover the game. So there's conversation choices, there's sometimes a directional choice, as in if you want to run or hide or stay or go. There's relationships, so based on how you talk to and how you act with other characters, they're going to maybe like you a bit less or a bit more. There is a combat mechanic. There's button press mechanics such as quick timer events. Button mash for opening doors and that kind of thing. So we try to pick mechanics that are there to kind of complement and immerse you as a player into the sort of cinematic scenes that are unfolding before you.
So you have obviously you have a solo play, and then you have the two-player online co-op, and that really the best way to describe that is imagine single player, and you're exploring and you're playing the game in single player. Then imagine inviting a friend into that game, and then you both exploring the game, both playing that, both making decisions, both making choices, and those choices that both of you make influence how that game unfolds, and it really is your choice. There's an awful lot of branching in the game, so it really is your path and your story. And 5-player or 2 to 5-player movie night mode is essentially a bunch of you and a friend sitting on a couch, choosing the characters that you want to play, and then putting your names in, and then essentially as the game flows, you'll get asked to pass the pad around. But it's not just about that. It's when coming out of Until Dawn, we saw people play Until Dawn in a very social way, and we were really quite surprised at how many people played it like that, the sort of very new and innovative ways that they decided to do it, and passing the pad around. So movie night is really a mode that enables us to facilitate that for people, so they can just have a bunch of friends around and play it and shout at the telly and make the decisions that way. Gameplay wise, we think probably about 4 to 5 hours, but we don't like to think of it as in that time zone and time slot, really, because there's so much content in it. For instance, I mean, there are a lot of different endings. There are something like 69 different deaths in the game, so we think you'd probably need to play it 8 or 9 times just to see all the deaths in the game. You take that with the single player modes, the stuff you can unlock as well, and also the multiplayer modes. There's an awful lot of content in there. It's much bigger than just that single playthrough.
I mean, it's really about, as creators, you want the things you make to be available to as many people as possible. PlayStation is a great platform, and I'm really glad we're still supporting it, but it's great to have the opportunity for some players out there who maybe haven't experienced one of our games before to now have the chance to play it. So that was, I guess, what informed the decision, really. When you're dealing with other platforms, you have a lot more testing to do, and different things can go wrong sometimes in different platforms. But that's something we've planned for and tried to manage. We make sure that it's a great experience no matter what the platform is, and really the effort goes into just making a great game. You kind of have to think of the platforms. It's mainly a technical exercise, but creatively, if your content you're making is really good and really compelling, I think that's the most important thing. Yeah, so with regards to how the setting and content varies from one Dark Pictures game to another, the Dark Pictures is very much an anthology, meaning that each episode can stand on its own. Each episode is a standalone horror adventure, and it's really great for us as creators because that allows us to explore very different subject matter and themes from one episode to the next, which is very appealing. You can play one of the games and not necessarily having to play a previous one to understand what's going on. So even the story setting and characters is totally different from every new episode. But one thing that was quite important is we want it always to feel like it's by the same maker's hand, that it feels like a supermassive game. So we want to have a lot of consistency between each episode, but it's not a continuation, so you don't have to play number one and then get number two to see how the story turns out. It's a self-contained story in each episode. Well, I've put some little Easter eggs and clues in there that kind of, for the eagle-eyed players will point to or nod towards something that maybe will come up in the future episodes. But there's not, a story arc that goes between episodes. For me as an art director, I kind of think of it as one connected universe, because it makes the task of world building and kind of creating a universe for this all to take place in that's going to be consistent from one to the next. It makes it an easier job and more understandable job. Tonally, we want it to kind of feel the same. It is important, I think, that when you play one of these, you understand and recognize instantly that it's a Dark Pictures game, and sometimes the way to do that is to kind of have that consistency of universe and world building.
Well, obviously we love Until Dawn. It's in our DNA, but we are very much focused just on the Man of Medan and the Dark Pictures and all the great stories that will come in that.